Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Single Player Let's Play series. So, in between episodes, I've gone through and cleaned up everything with little yellow labels. I set up another fuel refinery. So, remember, this was filled with oil, and then you had heavy and light fuel, I think, or oil. I can't remember. So, crude and then heavy and light, or light and heavy. Well, I put both of those into the fractionating stills automatically, and then they go into these fluid tanks and then into this large one. So, you can see that out of this entire process, we ended up with a little more than 256,000 millibuckets of crude oil. And out of that, we ended up with a little bit less than 256,000. So you can see that it's not a precisely perfect process. I'm not really sure where any of the loss was, but it's there. And that refined fuel will get used in time, but I'm not really sure what for yet. So we'll still have to figure that out. I also replaced the flux duct over here, the flux point over here, with our creosote tank. So this is the creosote that we're producing currently over in our charcoal farm. And so that is auto-ejecting using the little configuration here into one of these. This is a compression dynamo. This was not very difficult to craft. I'll show you that recipe really quickly. The compression dynamo here, which is just a bronze gear, we've seen a lot of these other materials and just some bronze ingots, is producing a decent amount of Fe that looks like right now it can produce up to 160 to run our sawmill. Right now it's only producing 16, and I've got a lot of high efficiency fuel upgrades in here to kind of reduce any waste. But overall, I thought this would be a fun alternative way to power that up and continue to use our resources and keep things kind of unique and distinct. And so that seemed like kind of an interesting idea. I also moved some of our auto crafting contraptions over. So the auto crafting for the millstone and auto crafting for the basin are now here. They live here and work wonderfully. So yeah, overall, we've been making a lot of good progress there. But today, I would like to do something pretty interesting. One feature in Mechanism, and one feature that just in most mod packs that you'll see is large energy storage. And so Ender.io used to be really good for just large capacitor banks, and then those started becoming less and less popular as other mods took over and as Ender.io started to die out. And so now a lot of times we see other mods taking that place. And so today we're going to be participating with one of those mods, and that is going to be Mechanism's induction cell. So the induction cell will allow us to store an incredibly large amount of stuff, and by stuff I specifically mean flux. And so we're going to look at some of these basic induction cells and what we can do with them. So there is the induction casing, which you can see is already pretty expensive. I think we're doing okay on diamond and ender pearls. I did some ender pearl farming in between episodes. And then aside from just the casings, we're also going to need induction ports, which is going to be an auto smithing recipe we'll have to put together really quickly. And then there's the basic and advanced induction cells. These two we could make now. I'm probably going to stick with basics. 12 million RF is a lot, and so if we just stuck with one of those, I would have to say that would be fine. And so we know how to craft a lot of these things. We know how to craft everything here, so let's go and teach you how to make cells. And then we'll use those cells and the induction casings and blocks of copper to make ourselves a basic induction cell, and then cost 2 of those and some more materials to make the advanced. So if we ever wanted to do that, we certainly could. And then we're just going to need a hardened glass and then a finished PCB, and of course the induction casing and the copper blocks for that. So I think overall that's all we're going to need as far as crafting goes. Let's go ahead and stick those here all together. Actually, right, this one here is an auto smithing, so we'll do that right there. And then the redstone flux cell you already know how to make, right? Yeah, you already know how to make a redstone flux cell. Oh, come on. Yeah, so we should be good there. I don't think we need this one. So now if I ask for an induction, let's do a 2 induction cell. You know how to make these. What's going on here? What is going on? You know how to make all this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Let's try that one more time. Maybe. Okay, I don't know why that was working as strangely as it was, but changing exact mode off seemed to fix it. So you can see now that I've turned it on, the entire room has come alive. My magnet is on. Let me fix that. There we go. So we'll go ahead and get those. We're also going to need the, let's see, we're going to need the induction port. Probably 2 of those. A handful of those, and 1 of those. And that's going to get us a basic induction cell. And the basic ones are still very good. And what this will do is this will take place of our multiple thermal cell setup over here. And we'll just have 1 large multi-block to take its place. And I think that's going to look significantly better. So, let's see. What are we waiting on still? We have those. And we have you. And so if you just place these down, you're going to see they don't do anything except for just connect. They don't actually function on their own. You definitely do need something to go on with the something to run on with the actual housing and cell here. So yeah, that's definitely a necessity. Let me wait for the rest of this to craft up, and we will pick up from there. Okay, so it looks like the induction ports are still on their way. I'm imagining something probably happened here. So let's go sort that out again. Been having nonstop issues with this setup. I don't know why. There's really not a reason this should be happening. I'm guessing things are just probably waiting for a redstone signal. Yeah. Let's try that setting. That definitely seems to work a little better. And now that we've got those all put together, we now have the induction matrix quest completed, which is a very good one to have completed. There's a lot of good stuff that we're going to get done with this, so I'm excited to show you exactly how this is going to work. So these are freeform multi-blocks. I think that's probably one of the coolest parts about them. We're going to go and remove that. We're going to remove a lot of this and just clean a lot of this up. That's going to force our diesel engine to kick on. I'm just going to put an override lever over here for now. Ah, yes, we have successfully killed everything, right? Let's put this right there. And grab a lever. Because right now you're just wasting diesel. So we'll just do that for now. We're totally fine. We just don't have a buffer right now. So we'll fix that. I'm going to put that down right there. I'm not really 100% sure that we have a way to read data off of the induction cell, but we're going to find that out as well, because I think that'll be pretty cool to sort out. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a setup here that is decently large. Go ahead and put you there for now. And we'll go ahead and put down our induction cell, like so. Whoops, this actually needs to go down a block. And since these are tile entities, they don't tend to break altogether, which is totally fine. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a port right down here. And that way when we're done, we can just come down here and drop in our flux plug. And then we're just going to put walls all around this. I don't know if I can put a port here. I'm going to test that. I'd love it if I could. And it looks like I might need more wall. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go ahead and grab that real quick. While we wait for those to craft up, we can go ahead and start putting the rest of it in. And so I'll explain. The induction cells, which are these guys, these are the ones that store the energy. That's why their recipe requires energy storage devices. It's because that's where the energy comes from and goes to. And then we have the induction provider, and this is the logical provider which will handle the throughput of our cell. So if we end up putting an induction cell together with one provider and it only has an output rate of 12,000 FE per tick, that means that at best in any situation, we're only ever going to be able to output that much in FE per tick. Now, we didn't get a redstone particle saying that this worked, so I'm assuming that this did not work, and I'm guessing it's because of this right here. So let's fix that by putting you there and you there. And if we get a flash of redstone like that, you know that it worked. And now if we take a look at this, you'll see that it is empty and it can store up to 24 million RF. So we can start to rearrange and move stuff around. So if I go ahead and put you there, that is going to handle that component. And now we could probably put this somewhere smarter. I have a couple of ideas. So I'm probably going to put this back here because I want to clean up this room a little bit. And by the way, it doesn't matter how you place these in here. It does not have any preference. And so we can do something like this. You're going to output to the bottom like so. We can see our matrix statistics. And I don't know that it's going to output necessarily. If it doesn't, I have a plan for that. Not to worry. Not to worry at all. And so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need a way to get stuff to the bottom. So why don't we steal this again really quickly. I keep on forgetting that that is the only source of power we have at the moment. Put you down right here. And I want to grab a plug. Not a plug, sorry, a flux point. Here we go, flux point. And then what we can do is then down here at the end, we can go ahead and put down one of these thermal cells. And this will have two purposes. The first purpose, of course, will just be to act as a buffer, because that's always good to have. And your flux point can live there, and you can do, we'll name this one. So this will be named, let's make a new network. And this will be alternator in, and we'll make it blue. And we're going to keep it just public for now. And so we'll dial into alternator in like so. And then around the back here, we can put a flux plug, alternator in, flux point. I always get these mixed up. Alternator in, and now you're going to see it's going to start to have some energy go through it as soon as we configure this guy over here to push its energy out the back. That's a point. This is a... Oh, this is also a point. I had it right the first time. Why aren't you running? Once again, I had these mixed up. These are not helpful names. I'm probably going to rename these in the next update because this is not a helpful name. Plug and point tell me nothing. So I'm probably going to rename them like receiver and transmitter. Anyways, so we're going to come over here and we're just going to say bypass limit. And we want as much to go through here as possible. And because we only had the one provider, it's only going to come in at 12,000 RF per tick or flux per tick. And so you'll see that this is going to build up 24. And so our big old induction matrix here can grow with us. And that's why I built this, is we could make it even bigger if we wanted to. Maybe we should do that, but let's see how we're doing on diamonds and ender pearls, because that is probably one of my bigger concerns. But now we can go ahead and take you and put you down here like I've been wanting to do. And you're not outputting, so that means we've got to do something a little different here. What we've got to do is go ahead and destroy you. Grab that with my magnet. And we're going to destroy you for now. It's completely temporary. There we go. Is we've got to make ourselves a configurator to configure this device. And so the configurator here is made by warping one of these flux network configurators that we haven't even made before. So let's go and take this guy, and we're going to need to throw it into not your usual portal. That's where things get really fun here. We're not going to have to throw it through the nether portal. If you read the tooltip, it says toss into a portal that leads to the end. So let's head over to our end portal. Let's just go tempad run program end portal. Come on. There we go. And so now we should be able to throw this right in. And if we go through on the other end, I just heard something get picked up. There's our configurator, all said and done. So that was pretty easy. It's kind of a fun recipe for that because they're both configurators, but one of these is a little bit different. One of these is a little bit more advanced and has been picked up by an Enderman on the other side, I think is what happened, because it seems to definitely know a little bit more about advanced tech, which they do say that the Endermen know a lot about, so that makes sense to me, at least, you know, as far as I'm aware. My documents in the research materials over here in the quest line don't really say anything, but who knows. So now that we have this guy, we can configure you to output by right-clicking on it, and now that it has been configured, if we do... Again, I've got to go look at the Flux networks because I don't remember the difference. Receives, that's the plug. Okay, we're going to do plug down here, and that actually isn't the right plug. Let's swap these out. Plug there, and then this plug, the green plug, can go there. So now you should be draining. So it looks like we're inputting 1.98 and we're outputting 1.24. That seems about right. And now what we can do is we can change things up just a tiny bit. And we also need to make it so that we can receive energy from one other source. And that other source is this guy right here. So we've got to handle that as well. So why don't we do this? Let's put you there. Let's put you there. And let's put another flux cell down. What we can do is we can say, let's input from the back and output to the right. And so now you're going to start going up. You're going to start going down. Why? Right, because this isn't full. That makes sense, yep. Might move you to just be right here. I don't really see any need for it to be out of sight. And then we can just have them be back and bottom and then output to the right. And so this is just going to keep us moving. So once this empties out, you can see our 1980 going through here. And if we go to the matrix stats, you'll see here our input is that 1980, 1980 FE per tick. That's the same number we see here. And then output is variable, but it seems to be kind of going up and down. So there we are. And if we go to this, you'll also see the dimensions of the build, and then that is 2 cells and 1 provider. So that is the induction cell. That's the induction matrix, I should say. I'm going to leave this space here open and available as is, but I am going to put down a torch just to make sure that nothing spawns. And now that we have our induction cell, there's only one last thing that we need to do, and that is to configure this guy here to read off of a different block. So now I want you to read off of this. And so if I turn this off, I want our main energy to kick on. What direction is this? That would be to the right. There we go. So that's going to be 5,980 FE coming in here now. And what we can do is we can always read off of, rather than reading off of this one, why don't we read off of this one back here? And so when that one back there fills up, we will stop using our biodiesel to run our generator upstairs. But until this one fills up, we're going to keep running that biodiesel generator. And then once it fills up, we should be good to go. So let me just wait around for that to happen. And then I'll be back once it does. And just like that, this one has filled up. Our biodiesel generator upstairs has turned off. I came through here just to clean out the upgrades from these because I think that we're just going to be using these for machines going forward anyways. So we can start to strip those of their contents. And we can actually probably reset these pretty well. All you have to do is just make sure that they're on the same redstone settings. And if you do Control, Alt, Shift, and then click, you can empty them of their flux, and then they should stack because they now have the same MPT data on them. The accumulators are kind of SOL. You just have to deal with them as is. That's just what happens sometimes, and that's perfectly okay. But now we have our input and our output separated, so if we ever needed to add more flux production, we absolutely could. But as you can see with our setup as it is right now, we have two buffers. We've got this one, and then we've got this one. And if we ever have to run our biodiesel generator, we also have this one up here. So that is as potent of a system as I think we need for the time being. Again, this is all kind of variable and dependent on what we end up going for in the future. I do think our alternators time on this world are pretty limited at this point. We've been using them for a very long time, and at this point, I'm tempted to say that they are no longer necessary pretty soon. I'd love to replace our induction stove with one that is significantly bigger, and then just remove the alternators altogether if I could. But that is for another day. So that gets us one more quest done, and there's still one more here that I seem to be missing, and that is the super wireless grid. I think I've got everything else done here, but the super wireless grid is actually going to be helpful. And on top of that, that is something that I've been slacking on doing. So let's go ahead and do this one. That way we can get this quest chapter done, and we can move very nicely into our next major accomplishments. So the super crafter, the super portable crafting grid here is just going to take our wireless grid. And I think our wireless grid is actually a crafting grid, and so it's not usable in this instance, which is totally fine. This kind of stuff is not very expensive to us at this point. But what is going to be expensive is this guy right here. Yep, this is going to use another right ingot to make. And that's why we are trying to stay away from these super tier things, because that's just going to be used for these two. But they can get really tough and really expensive after some time. So I'm trying to avoid running into them too often if possible, because they are not fun to make. Just waiting for everything to finish up here. And there we go. Go and toss that in the redstone furnace. And we can go ahead and get started with one of these wireless grids, and then we'll get into the super wireless part. All right, so there's the wireless grid, and then there is our super wireless grid. So this is why the super wireless grid is so helpful. If we swap these out, if I hit, let's put G and let's, oh right, we can't. Let's do this. We have the grid here, which we don't need anymore. And then there's the super wireless grid, which is G. So if I hit G, right, we have to sync it to our network. I completely forgot. And then I can show you how great this thing is. So you may have noticed as I was cycling through the settings here, there are three modes. There's the fluid grid, crafting grid, and the crafting monitor. And those are like the three things that I've been needing the most as I run around. So I honestly cannot complain at all about how helpful this is going to be, because it's going to be insanely helpful. So we're going to do two-way, not auto-selected, sort by ID, and you guys know that's pretty much how I do. If I put this in my little grid slot here, hit G, you'll see everything's there. And then if I go to my keybinds and look for super again, we can switch the modes. So if I do Shift G, I can switch modes between fluid, monitor, and crafting. So that's what I'm probably going to do, is just do Shift G for switching between modes and G to open it up as is. But yeah, I think that is one of the biggest things that we could possibly do at this stage, is get to this guy. There we go. We no longer have to worry about all those different grid types that we've been having to run around to use. They're all handled. By the way, I'm pretty sure the morphing tool will accept, our configurator. So that's that, nice and consolidated. And now we can finally take a step into one of the last chapters for this quest line for this pack. There's 2 chapters left, but this next one is going to be full of a lot of content. So let's start that, because there's definitely a lot to it from here. So to get started, if we take a look here at our quest line, you can see that there are 2 things. Sorry, I was thinking of this one that has 2 things. There's one thing that you're going to need here, and that is the pity machine frame. You should notice that by now, all of these things are accessible. I told you I had a plan for the rubber and the plastic, which, by the way, are doing super good. So if we take a look at the pity machine frame, we can craft one of these almost completely automatically at this point. We are so prepared for this. So let's go ahead and get that. Come on, frame. Come on. There we go. That pity machine frame is going to open up a new quest chapter for us, to industry and beyond. So welcome to Industrial Foregoing. You're going to get a manual for this chapter because there's all sorts of stuff in Industrial Foregoing that you're going to want to learn about. Go ahead and toss that in your Akashic Tome if you're using one. And this is going to walk you through the process. A lot of this, remember, this is a custom mod pack that I made, so there's a lot of stuff in here that's not going to be exactly to the books. A lot of progression that's going to be out of order because of how I felt the pack should be designed versus how the mod decides the pack or decides its own content should be ordered. So there's, a little bit of disparity there. Not that big of a deal, though. Just follow along with the quest line, and I think I did a pretty good job of explaining how things go. So there is latex extraction. We are already doing this technically, but there are things that we're probably going to want to do around this as well. So let's grab that bucket of latex using our fluid grid, and that's already going to get us one of our quests. And you can just dump that back in there if you ever feel like the items aren't going to be that, or the fluid is not that helpful. But the other thing we can do is make a fluid extractor. And I am going to go ahead and make one of these because they're pretty neat. They're pretty cool. So the fluid extractor here is very cheap. We'll make one of these. And this fluid extractor is an alternative to the setup that I made over here. I made this setup over here because I knew how much I wanted to just dive into Industrial Foregoing. I find that mod to be very fun. But the way that the fluid extractor works is when you place it down, it places away from you. It can take power if you want to give it power. You don't have to give it power, but you can. And for now, I am going to set this up just right here outside. I don't really need this, so this is just completely temporary. And let's go and put down a flux point and put you here. We'll make sure you're on the right network. You're going to receive your power, and you'll see the UI has a couple of weird kind of different components to it. There's this. This is what they called progress, or I think in MineFactory it was called work. Maybe it was still called progress. This is basically the processing timer. This is how long this takes. And you see it's about 5 seconds for one process to go. And it's using 500 FE, not per tick, just 500 FE to do this process. So by doing this, what we can do is we can say we want latex to go somewhere based on this button here that we can click. We can say we want it to go certain directions. I don't personally care, so I'm just going to right-click to disable them. You can do left-click to go forwards, right-click to go backwards. Middle-click or shift-click also, I think, works. No, middle-click does work, but shift-click doesn't do anything. And then you can say, show the working area. Well, this guy's really a small-scale machine, so it only works in that one space. Well, what does it do to work, you may be wondering at this point. Let's grab a birch log, and I'll show you. I'm going to grab a stripped log, and I'm going to grab a normal log, and I'll show you that it can kind of use both. If I put down a stripped log, you're going to see, by the time this next work cycle goes through, there's now a break particle. Like this breaking particle, it's one of those. This is going to start to pull out latex from this block. Same latex that we've been using this whole time. It's the exact same. This is why this machine's not really necessary, but I have it in the quest line in case you missed out that you could do it over there in that same way that I've got it set up over there with the arboreal extractors. The downside about this setup is it is actually going to eventually destroy this birch log. And now if I'd started with a birch log with its what's the word I'm looking for? Bark. With its bark still on, then that would, in fact, let me find the right recipe here, turn into, eventually, actually, hey, why are there two recipes? I don't know. Will eventually turn into a stripped birch log. So we're just skipping a step here. And so we could automate this in several different ways, but you can see that each time we go through here, it's going to give us some more latex, and it's actually going to take less time to run. You see that timer, that progress bar, is not going all the way back up to 100. It's only going up to 2, or I think that's 20. No, 40, sorry. And that's going to build up latex faster because the bark is still on this log. Once that bark is gone, we're going to start running into issues. So I am just going to leave this here for now. I don't think that that's going to be super necessary for us, but it'll just be here. I'm going to go ahead and remove its flux point because it's not necessary. You'll see that this power will go away over time. That 500 FE per process, you can see that actively working, going down by 500 each time the timer goes down to 0. And so once it runs out, it runs out. That's fine. But we needed to get that done to get through the quest line anyway. But again, you guys know that I much prefer my arboreal extractor setup over here. So there is a new gear we're going to be using a lot, and that is this one right here, diamond gears. So they're going to have to go through our press just like everything else does. So we're just going to toss those in there as well. And I'm going to go ahead and teach you how to make pity machine frames too, because that's all stuff you know how to make. You know how to make cured rubber, I think, right? Yep. So if I teach you how to do that, we'll start making a new row down here for Industrial Foregoing, probably right there. And so if I wanted a pity machine frame, I could now request probably like, 10 of these. And that's all stuff that we have a good bit of. I think the most expensive part is going to be the 40 steel and the 40 iron, or tin. But that's still not that big of a deal. So, now that we have that done, there is one last thing that I want to get done this episode, and then I think we're going to have to call it. But we're going to set up an entire base station, crafting station set up over here. And I believe somewhere... No, I don't. That's right. That's right. Let's get another flux point. And we're going to set up a little power line back here, because this is where we're going to be doing all of our industrial foregoing, is in this building. So let's grab that. Let's grab some pipes from refined pipes. And right now, we're just going to do the one pipe. But we're going to have more machines as we go. And we're probably going to need 3 of the following machine anyway. So let's go ahead and get 3. There are 3 main fluids anyway, so I think that'll be really helpful. We're going to be looking at the dissolution chamber. That is this guy. The recipe, pretty straightforward. These are all very familiar things. These are all things we know how to make or already have a ton of. Let me just grab those 3 diamond gears. And then while that crafts up, we can go through the rest of this, make sure we've got it. And so the dissolution chamber, I'll walk through while we're making the other 2 diamond gears, will require power. And this is the inventory for the dissolution chamber. Don't get scared. Let me walk you through it again. This is a fluid that you're going to put in here. Dissolution just means dissolving stuff into. So dissolve, So this is a chamber for dissolving things in this perimeter, these 8 slots, into the fluid here to produce either a fluid or an item. So don't worry about the terminology. Don't worry about the slots. Let me just walk you through it. We've got the blue, which are your item inputs. We've got the green, which is your fluid input. You've got the orange, which is your item output, and the pink, which is your fluid output. These over here are upgrade slots to make this machine run faster, run more efficiently. I think it's just faster for this machine, but you can make it go pretty fast. And this is a fluid input-output port where you can just toss fluids in here if you didn't want to right-click. So I think at this point we should be good for 2 more dissolution chambers. Like so. And the reason I wanted these in such a high quantity is that if we look at the recipe list, right, there are a few recipes or a few fluids we're going to use a lot. There's latex, there's pink slime, and then there's ether gas. Latex we've already seen. We know all about latex at this point, and so much so, in fact, that I'm very comfortable telling this machine in particular that it should be getting latex from our system. And so we're going to do exactly that. There should be a network line somewhere. Dear God, it is somewhere. I am having a bit of a hard time perusing and traversing through this area with all of our lack of sub-basement. I feel like a basement would be helpful, but I'm having a hard time remembering where everything is located. So let's see if we can figure it out. Ooh, that was very close to causing some very annoying destruction. Right, so here is our network receiver. So we can just route this over this way and then into you, just like so. And so if we grab some cable and an exporter, we already have. Excellent, excellent. We can just do that. And then if I'm going to make sure to cover all this up as we go, because you know me, I like to keep things nice and tidy. And if we do just this and come straight up into the back of this machine here, which for now I am going to, well, let me think. Order of operations here. We need to put you down so that I could put you down and then break you so that I can take a concrete cover and put that down. Like so. Now we put you there on the exporter, and we're going to tell the exporter, export fluids latex. And we're just going to drag latex into there, and that's going to input latex right here into this slot. And so what we can do is we can say, hey, we don't want latex coming in from any other slots. We just want it coming in from the back. And that should just keep working. Yeah, that looks like it. Nice. And let's just grab some speed upgrades. We already have some, so we can just grab like 2. Yeah, that's plenty fast. And now, hopefully, you're starting to understand why it's nice to have things hooked up into the refined storage network like I have. I know that we did this fluid production a long time ago and that we haven't really used it yet, but that was all just preparation for the bigger scheme of things, which was all the latex recipes that we're going to use. Because if you looked through here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That one doesn't really count. 14. Come on, I know that there are more. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 36 it looks like. 36 recipes that use latex. That is why we set up the latex so long ago. That is why we have a 256 block buffer, is that if we ever need something made out of latex, I don't want to not have enough. And I don't want to have infrastructure that doesn't support it. So that's why we did that. And I know that it was a little bit future-proofed, and that was sort of the purpose, but hopefully now that kind of makes a little bit more sense. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and grab some glass. We're going to glass this whole space in like I usually do, like I have been doing at least, I should say. By the way, I can't wait for the next Harmonious Engineering update to come out. The mod that I made to support that, or support this pack, the Harmonious Engineering's add-ons, I recently added a portable stone cutter, and I cannot wait for portable stone cutters because that mod hasn't been updated. So I made my own, and boy, am I grateful. But I also I can't wait. I'm so excited. Let's go ahead and turn that into those. And so now we have another little station here with its own little door. I'm not really sure that the doors are strictly necessary for everything. I feel like they're kind of getting in the way sometimes maybe, but like these two rooms, there's no access through that way. And there's not really meant to be. So I'm not super sure how I feel about these. You know me, my whole point for this pack is to get to a point where things are decently automated. So hopefully very soon that becomes the case. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I know that this is going to be coming out on Thanksgiving because I am very bad about planning here lately. I just haven't had enough time to myself to record. So I'm recording this the night before Thanksgiving. So if you celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will see you very, very soon. Take care.